It's funny you mentioned Johnny Cochran because at one of my trials was against Johnny Cochran.
Oh, wow.
One day my friend was opening for Bob Saget, and I went with him as his manager backstage, and I just started talking to Bob. He told me I was funny, and he thought I was going to go on stage. And I was like, no, that's the other comedian.
How would you say your legal education has helped you as a comedian?
I had self-awareness, and that's so important in comedy. You have to be able to listen to see where people are laughing, read a room. That's a big part of comedy, and that's all from practicing law. I joke on stage about that, where no one goes to law school saying, I'm going to be an insurance defense lawyer.
State
That's
Farm,
kind
passionate
yeah.
about.
So I was born in Philadelphia, but I moved when I was 2. So I was basically raised in Chicago.
High recollection of Philadelphia first 2 years, clearly, right?
But I always was, when I was a kid, I look back during COVID. Did you guys have COVID in Canada?
Yeah, we maybe. I think maybe it was capital COVID.
Okay.
The letter case might have changed. No, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
What I did was I went back and looked at like all my old yearbooks and
Oh,
stuff
wow.
when we had all that time. And in 8th grade, where I listed what I wanted to be when I grew up, it said lawyer slash politician.
Wow.
And so I kind of feel like I've always wanted that. That was what I wanted to do. My goal when I went to law school, right before I went to law school, I started playing music, and I wanted to become a musician. So my strategy was to incorporate music and my love of law and become like an entertainment lawyer,
Okay.
get a one-hit wonder, become a one-hit wonder, and then use my popularity to go into politics.
Okay.
Beto O'Rourke, who ran for Senate in Texas, he had a similar
Oh, no.
rise where he was a musician. He got some notoriety from that and then launched into politics after law school. So he stole my plan. Uh,
For sure.
but along the way, so I graduated from law school at University of Illinois. And then my grades were horrible because I was basically a 5th-year senior. I went to Illinois for undergrad too. So I was still like partying like I did. And I didn't really understand what first year law. I didn't have any friends that were lawyers who could tell me that first year law school, you have to like actually study. What I was doing was what I did in college, which was study for a few hours and then go out every night still. So it
Okay.
was like I had a wake up call because first year law school, if your grades aren't good, as kind of siphons everything up. So I was destined to not go work at a huge law firm because in America, if you're in the top of your class, you go on Law Journal,
Stuff like that. Yeah, yeah,
you
100%.
get opportunities. I didn't have those opportunities, so my choices were limited. And I just focused on things that I enjoyed, which I always liked going to court. And I got jobs working at a personal injury law firm, and then later at an insurance defense law firm, where I picked up a job right after law school. And I joke on stage about that, where no one goes to law school saying I'm going to be an insurance defense lawyer.
State
That's
Farm,
kind
passionate
yeah.
about.
No one wants to do that. You just end up there. But the
Yeah.
great thing about that is, I mean, it created a lot of opportunities for me. I won a big case, and then what I was able to do uh, after my first year working at an insurance defense firm, we created this. I went to the Supreme Court of Illinois. I argued on a case that we weren't expected to win, and we won. I was like 25 years old. I was the youngest attorney to ever win. And so I used that leverage. Um, to go back to law firms which were recruiting me and see which ones will let me work part-time.
Okay.
So one firm was like, yeah, we'll do it. And so I worked part-time as a lawyer. And then I started this music company on the side where I was managing bands and playing in bands while also like going to court 3 or 4 days a week. And then
Yeah.
also from Friday to Saturday, Sunday, I was like booking shows, managing bands. Then I started trying cases and I loved it. And so I wanted to go back into law full time. So my boss at the time at the firm I was at, and I split off from our firm and I became a partner in my own firm, working full time, doing insurance cases and municipal law cases, defending cities when they got sued or cops when they got sued. So we were busy in Illinois and Chicago. And I loved it. I loved trying cases. And so at that time, I started taking classes at Second City, improv classes for fun.
Okay.
And then one day my friend was opening for Bob Saget, and I went with him as his manager backstage. And I just started talking to Bob, and he told me I was funny, and he thought I was going to go on stage. And I was like, no, that's the other
You're
comedian.
like, bro, I came here as like a manager situation.
Yeah.
Now
And
I'm
we
the
don't look
talent.
alike unless you're racist, because he was also Persian. I'm like, does he think I'm that guy? And I didn't go up. I didn't go on a sold out show for the first time to do stand up. But the next day I did an open mic,
Hmm.
and then I won this contest. Like it was an open mic contest.
No
And
preparation for this. Just
no, I kind of always wrote a little bit, but I never like an open mic is an open mic. You
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
go. I you need like 3 minutes. I was like, yeah, I have 3 minutes. And I won this contest. And then like I ended up hosting that show every week after that. And it just kind of comedy just overtook my life.
Wow.
And and it was challenging. And I kind of felt like I did everything I wanted with law. I
Mm.
tried, dozens of jury trials, federal cases. I argued in front of the Seventh Circuit.
Mm.
So it's like I needed a new challenge. And so like an idiot, I went full in on comedy.
Well, I mean, it clearly, we're sitting here talking today for that reason. So maybe there's
Yeah,
a little bit of intelligence that went into it, but that's amazing to
sometimes
hear.
it works. Yeah. I posted today explaining defamation to my fan base, and a lot of people were triggered. So it's fun that I have that ability to say I'm smarter than you still.
I mean, like you don't get a JD for no reason, so that definitely helps in terms of
Right.
giving you a leg up.
I don't regret.
That's
Yeah,
thing.
I definitely it definitely helps. And there was a time a few years ago where a lot of people in America were saying you don't need to go to college, you don't need to get a degree to get a job. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true. But the more I deal with people who don't have degrees, I feel like no, I think you should, because the ability to think critically
Yeah.
and logically is something, at least in America, they don't teach it in high school.
I find that interesting. So, what would you say? How would you say you kind of answered this a little bit, but how would you say your legal education has helped you as a comedian, um, from okay, any standpoint? I guess that first comes to mind, albeit performance,
Yeah.
the storytelling process. What is that like in terms of the benefits of your law degree in what you do now?
Well, definitely with writing, obviously writing a joke, and I don't know if it was so much my education or the practice of law, but
Mhm.
with comedy, you cut out the fat. You have to be able to be concise and to the point. And my legal experience teaches you that. That's something that I developed as a lawyer, as the ability to, okay, look, I wrote 6 pages of stuff, but sometimes you only need one line.
Mhm.
And I don't know about education so much, but definitely I could speak to what what matters from practicing law.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me is the ability to listen and to be aware of your surroundings. As a lawyer that was in court every day, we'd have to argue motions in court. And I learned later as a lawyer, not, unfortunately not early, that sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Don't bury yourself. I watch lawyers and law students, sometimes just bury themselves. Sometimes you just stare at the I would stare at the judge sometimes and just be like, after the guy just talked for like 5 minutes, I just look at
Yeah.
the judge and be like, Judge, come on. And then the judge would be like, yeah, I agree with what you said to me. And I'm like, I didn't even say anything, but she just
There's a
mentally thought,
telepathy going on. Yeah.
yeah, because I had self-awareness. And that's so important in comedy. You have to be able to listen to see where people are laughing,
Right.
or read a room. That's a big part of comedy. And that's all from practicing law, from going to court, reading juries, trying to figure out what they're thinking when they hear testimony. Um, so yeah, it was definitely important. And obviously for law school, the mental toughness to balance a schedule during law school, during finals especially.
What was one bit where you felt like, okay, I came in here as a comedian, now I'm turning into a law professor. What is like what's going on in terms of that? Like, did you have
Oh,
any bits like that where you felt like that?
I mean, if you look at my social media, sometimes I'm posting stuff where I'm talking about I wanted to do something funny, but I end up explaining the law. And that happens all the time too in like crowd work. If I'm talking to someone in the crowd, like I have a couple jokes now where I'll ask them a question and they don't really answer it. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, or they're like hesitant. I'm like, this isn't a deposition. Like I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
So I do joke about that on stage sometimes. And then I usually wait till the end of a show to reveal that I was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Obviously now,
What
uh,
is the motive behind that? I'm curious. In terms of just waiting till the end, what's the
um,
set behind that?
yeah, I mean, well, now it's harder. People know who I am, but the motive is that I think if I go in there as a lawyer, sometimes people are like, they have strong opinions about lawyers for one thing.
Uh-huh.
And also it takes away from the theme of my comedy, which is I'm poking fun at myself.
Yeah.
And so if you go in there and say I'm a lawyer and you have this like mentality where you're smarter than people, then everything I say is taken with a grain of salt, where I'm, talking about my brother who's a neurosurgeon, or, getting dumped by my girlfriend, and all these things that it's like self-deprecating. It kind of it kind of hurts the theme. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes when people bring me up, they're like, he's a lawyer, so I have to address it right away.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like to wait till the end because it's
Fair enough.
not always though. Like I said, like sometimes I'm doing shows for lawyers, so um I sometimes just throw that out first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just there's a lot of strong feelings about lawyers, and
Yeah.
people assume that we all have a lot of money, which we don't.
I was like, sometimes not everyone is Johnny Cochran. Oh, the glove does not fit. He must have quit.
Yeah,
Some some
it's funny.
lawyers
I
do.
It's funny you mentioned Johnny Cochran because at one of my trials was against Johnny Cochran
Oh,
before
wow.
he passed away. Yeah, we had a case against his firm. I represented the city of Chicago Police Department,
Mhm.
and he had sued them. He passed away before the actual trial, but
Mhm.
yeah, it was his law firm.
Could you possibly
So
talk about that case and what was like?
yeah, of course, I could talk about anything.
Love to learn that. That's an interesting story to kind of
Yeah, it's kind of
go.
funny because I was defending. So in Section 1983 lawsuits in America, it's constitutional law where people are accusing the municipalities of violating their civil rights.
Mhm.
And the case involved wrongful imprisonment of people who confessed to a killing, but then later someone else confessed to it at the federal level.
Mhm.
So as part of a plea bargain, which whatever, that's a whole nother story. Our guys were the right guys. I stand by that.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, heck of a like storytelling background in terms of just like having a variety of experiences going from being a lawyer going against Johnny Cochran. I mean,
Yeah.
or I guess interacting with him in one way, shape, or form. I'm curious to know, as I'm talking to you, I noticed that there are, now that you kind of talk about it in terms of like litigation is just a storytelling craft put in terms like in a formal way, something to a certain degree. And I'm wondering, as a comedian now, what do you know now about human nature or about your craft that you think would have helped you in your practice or that lawyers could maybe take away from in terms of being a better lawyer?
Oh, wow. Well, in terms of being a better lawyer, the one thing I wish I learned earlier, what I said earlier was just being able to listen and not talk. There's times as a lawyer where you prepare for a motion. I remember I prepare for a motion like for hours. And I'm like, well, I did all this writing. I have to bring this up. And the answer is no. Like you're doing that preparation in case you need it. Sometimes if you get in comedy, you get a huge laugh, you want to walk out as soon as you do. You don't have to do another joke. Same with comedy, same with law. If you are winning your argument, just leave. Like you don't need to. Um, that happens so much in court, and I did that too as a younger lawyer. Like just do sometimes short and sweet is the way to go,
Mhm.
and no one's going to be upset with you for that. Obviously I did appellate work too where you have clocks in front of you. You have that's your finite amount of time.
Mhm.
But lawyers sometimes think, well, I have 15 minutes, I have to use all of it. No, you don't. Sometimes you can make a point in 7 minutes, and that shortness of your answer is going to be rewarded.
That's interesting to know. That's probably, I mean, you could probably tell with me and my hour-long podcast, I could certainly use that lesson in terms of just shutting up. So
Oh, you want to leave people wanting more. That's what I learned as a comedian. Um, and I think that resonates a lot. I wish I was as a lawyer, I wish I was able to listen better.
Mhm.
I obviously was pretty good at it. I think because I would during I was I've done thousands of depositions, and what I would often ask questions, and I'd listen to what sometimes lawyers just want to hear themselves listen, and not just lawyers, anybody. So you just have to be able to just listen.
Mhm. That's certainly a valuable skill, and I think that a lot of lawyers can probably take that away. Especially most of my demographic is law students and people kind of just learning more about
Yeah.
craft and whatnot. So certainly that's definitely valuable. And for a yapper like myself, I think I'll definitely tattoo that
Yeah.
on on myself for
Law
sure.
school. Yeah, I wish in law school, I wish I first of all, I wish I like actually studied more. I had ADHD undiagnosed. Now I'm
Okay.
done. I wish I had that because if I had Adderall back then, I probably would have got better grades. But yeah, I just think that law school, what in America they say the first year they work you to death, the second year they scare you to death,
Third
or
year they bore you to death. That's what
or you
that's
to
that's what I
30.
heard. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So that's kind of true. Like you've already find your niche, find what you're happy doing in law school. I wish I did that. I wish I actually went to a law school that had like I just wanted to go to a school that was like good. I was like, oh, this is good. I wish I like looked up the schools to see what classes were
Wow.
interesting and the classes that were more aligned with what I wanted to do instead of what I thought I needed to do. But obviously for the bar exam, it was helpful to take the core stuff.
100%. And I think that especially in so being part of the dual program, I kind of get a bit of a taste of what it's
Right.
like in terms of the Canadian side and the American side. In Canada, in terms of like getting into a law school, it's a Fatty Muhammad. Oh my God, good job.
Yeah.
Getting into a law school in Canada is
Wow.
an accomplishment in and of its own. In terms of in America, I've noticed that obviously in the tier system matters a lot more in terms of where you go, what you do.
Yeah.
Recently done a Chicago OC. I can probably talk about this now. I'd done a Chicago OCI myself, and talking to yeah, I was like, "Where'd you go to?" Yeah, I went to yeah, no big deal. Went to Northeastern or North Northwestern, and then went to this school or that school, and it just more. It's obviously more of a thing. So I could
Yeah.
imagine that pressure, like not only for yourself but other law students as well. But what's so inspiring about your journey is I find that like a lot of people don't even try, let's say something like comedy, or even don't even try the arts, or don't
Wow.
try to work with different bands. What would you say to like law students who want to, or even legal professionals who want to kind of branch out and like, have this passion that's sitting there that they want to pursue, but sometimes, they're scared to do so or whatnot. Like, what would you kind of say to anybody who has a side passion that wants to pursue it? And now that you've done it, I've done it, I guess, in hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I can't speak to what other people do, but I think that I'm glad that I found what I wanted to do. Um, but comedy was never on my radar when I was younger. It just kind of happened. But if you're good at something else other than the law, you got to find time to do it. And that's simple as that. If you keep waiting, I wish I started comedy a little earlier, obviously, because now, I've been doing comedy for almost 14 years, but I started late in life. So it's a little, my options are limited in terms of what I can do. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to live with regret. You can work hard and still do fun stuff.
In terms of like advice you would have for other laws. Actually, before we get into that, I'd love to know more about if you were to kind of get back into the law right now, what is there a dream case, dream practice area where you go like, okay, if there's anything that's going to get me out of comedy and back into the law, what practice area or what case would it be?
Sure. I would, multiple things I've thought about this. Number one, I would love to go back and do civil rights on the plaintiff side now and sue all these people who are violating the rights of citizens under ICE. I think that that's a lucrative and fun. For my moral compass, it would
100%.
be fun to do that just to, prove how crazy this is that's happening. I would love to defend people who are being sued by the government
Mm.
for things that are kind of BS right now.
Mhm.
The I posted today on Instagram about AOC who called the president a rapist exactly a month ago, and he hasn't said anything about it. I'd love to handle defamation cases like that where people are sued for alleged defamation. And those are the kind of cases I'd love to handle, politically charged stuff um, that would just be fun to just go to court on. That's about it. I definitely don't want to do insurance cases defending trucking companies.
State Farm now was getting ready for the max offer. They were getting ready to give you the LeBron James deal, but that might be
It's funny. I get recruited a lot. People think I'm still a lawyer. Um, I mean, I wasn't disbarred. I don't have active license. It's
yeah.
non-active, so I'd have to take like 30 hours, I think, to of continued legal education. And I have thought about it a couple of times, just like, oh, it'd be fun to go back to do a couple of cases like that. Um, but yeah, those are the only things. Or like if I have a personal case, I'd love
Mhm.
to go back and defend myself. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty happy outside the law and just being criticizing others from the sidelines.
Building on the question of you kind of representing yourself, would you do that? Let's say if you got sued, or do you go the
I
route?
have
Oh, okay, like no outside counsel, just you can handle it
Yeah,
yourself in that sense?
I have done it multiple times. I sued insurance company. I was rear-ended and they
Oh,
were sub-tier insurance company and they were like trying to say it was my fault that the lady hit me. And I was like, I was an insurance, I did this for a living. And the guy was a complete jackass. So I sued them.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the lawyer on the other side knew who I was. He's like, yeah, man, we're so sorry. What is this going to take? I'm like, no, I already sued you. I'm not taking that money now. So
Yeah.
I want to do more. So that was one time. And then I sued Uber once
Oh, wow.
for, well, I think I played a role in them changing the rule. Cause at the time, the guy was picking me up and then he showed up and he found out I was going to the airport. He's like, oh, I'm not going to the airport. I'm like, what do you mean? And then because they didn't tell him where it was going at the time,
Okay.
they would tell the drivers. So it happened to me twice where someone came and goes, I'm not going right now because it's too far. They can make
Yeah.
a lot more money staying in the city.
Mm.
And so I sued them for discrimination. Uh, and we settled that case. But then now the rule is they tell the drivers before they pick up where the passenger's going. And
Um,
I don't think I was the cause of it, but I definitely was one of the tiers that, or one of the spokes that made it happen. So
I,
you're welcome, everybody. I did it. No.
I was gonna say, everyone, please give a round of applause to the Paul clause. That's the new of the on the Uber
Yeah.
contract. That's good. For sure.
Uber lawsuit. Yeah, I sued them. I've threatened lawsuits before. But if it's a big case, I always bring in someone. I've had other situations where I've needed a lawyer. I'll just hire a friend.
What would you say to law students right now that are, especially Canadians, funny enough, we're going into the OCI season in a couple months, whereas the Americans wrap up usually during the summer. What would you kind of say to law students now going into this sort of season and general career advice that you found to be helpful throughout your legal career and to others as well?
I would just say it's not, if you don't get the clerk job or whatever that you really want, it's not the end of the world. Like you're gonna find your path. If you work hard, amazing opportunities will come your way. I really believe that. And don't be a dick. Like I have a tattoo that's a Conan O'Brien quote that basically says, if you work hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. That's for the entertainment industry, but even with law, it helps. Look,
Mm,
like I got along with most lawyers,
mm.
'cause I was not funny, but I was just kind of like easygoing. The job is already hard as it enough as it is. Why make it harder for each
Yeah.
other? And I think the younger generations, as we went on, that becomes more the case. In the old school days, they would just be dicks to be dicks. But I think that if you work hard and you're nice, things will happen. Because look, people will remember you. There's a lot of networking that happens where, let's say you interview for a job, you don't get the job, but you had a good connection with the person that interviewed you. He's going to remember you, and he's going to be like, if his friends are hiring, they're going to be like, oh, we didn't hire this guy, but he was pretty good. He'd probably be good for your firm.
Mm.
So you never know. Just keep all keep don't burn bridges, be nice and genuinely be nice. Just don't do it just to like get opportunities. But I just think that resonates in every career. There's
Mhm.
no reason to make, you don't know what other people are going through.
Yeah.
So
There's always going to be a dick, basically, in that sense, for sure.
yeah. And no one likes that. Everyone always says that, like, I want a lawyer who's gonna be a dick and this and that. Like, no, you don't. Like, it's good in like maybe in a divorce case, that's probably helpful. But like I got along with opposing counsel. I mean, we were aggressive during the case. There were the lawyers that I didn't get along with were just shady. I didn't like that they were shady. They would lie, and that reputation goes far. People never forget that. But
Mhm.
if like a lawyers at the good firms, like the real good firms, the plaintiffs firms that were, I mean, those are the guys that I hired when I needed a lawyer. And to this day now, I refer cases to them because they were good lawyers and they were stand-up people, and they just they just carried themselves well. You don't
Mhm.
have to be a dick. So that's my advice. Be nice, work hard.
100%. In terms of, apologies for not laying this out loud, but the billable time segment, I think I'll wrap up and I'll translate into more so the comedy club podcast for just about the last 10 minutes here. What
I
were,
forgot that this was called billable hours because that's all I did for my.
yeah, yeah. I went to like, how do I do the cheesiest name for a
Oh,
podcast?
that's great. And that's another thing too, that when you think about during you guys are prepping, the billable hours for those big law firms are like 2,100, or they used to be something crazy like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
The smaller firms that where I worked, it was like 1,600, and that was still hard. But if you going back to your question before, where it's like you have another passion, yeah, you're not going to make as much money, but you're going to have a way different quality of life. Um, you can actually go to baseball games. Do they have baseball in Canada?
The Blue Jays, we try our best, but I think with
I
the
love the Blue
Cubs,
Jays. I love the Montreal Expos too. I love they're gone.
100%. I'll say my bucket list, and forgive me if this is the Cubs or White Sox, but I think you can kind of watch, I think watching baseball on top of a rooftop, and then it kind of, I forgot what the name, but that's certainly
Yeah,
for Wrigley Field. Right, right, right. I sound like such a
Cubs, yeah.
tourist, by the way. This is really, really bad. But besides that, I'd love to know in terms of in your comedy career, were there any like, what was kind of a moment that was a holy shit? I went from being a lawyer in terms of working in like being a trial lawyer, kind of working in court, to now I've ran into, okay, Bob Saget was one person, and then now I'm backstage with this guy or that. What was that kind of holy shit moment as a comic?
And I have those I got to be honest with you, that happens to me every month. There'll be times where I'm doing a show and the guy I grew up watching, uh, I'm opening for, or I'm having a conversation on the phone or having lunch with. That happened. I mean, I could tell you one crazy story. My one of my favorite comedians growing up was Jake Johansson.
Hmm.
Uh, him and Jerry Seinfeld were the most on Letterman and Jay Leno and Carson. They
Hmm.
were always like the people growing up. Those were the two biggest
Kings of
stand-ups.
late night. That's like at that
Yeah,
point.
that's what they were like known for. And when I was a lawyer, my friend bought me tickets to see Jake Johansson at Zanies here in Chicago.
Mhm.
And that was the only live comedy show I ever saw. And I got to meet him after the show. I'm like, you're one of my favorite comedians of all time. Um, 20 years later, I'm opening for him at the same club.
Wow.
We like text now. So it's like that's a holy shit moment.
Uh-huh.
There's so many. I mean, there's times where I'll be at theaters that I used to go watch comedy or go watch concerts or comedy at, and now I'm performing at them. The Vic Theater is my favorite venue in Chicago. I saw, all my favorite bands there, Wilco, My Morning Jacket, and I've performed there now at least 5 times as a comedian. So that stuff happens almost every month, and it kind of makes you happy. It kind of when you have for every one of those days, there's 6 days where you're like doing a show for 20 people who are not happy to see you. So so yeah, those are the moments that are awesome.
For sure, for sure. Last question I'll ask you in terms of in being in the comedy world, what's sort of a piece of advice or something that you got, I mean, this is probably hard to get out of in terms of so many people you ran into, but what's something that stands out in terms of something that you've learned or was told during comedy that really helps you throughout, whether like going forward in terms of as a comedian or even through your life, or something that kind of goes, oh, that was really a wise thing that I heard that I think was really valuable to who I am now.
I think the one thing that I learned was you find your people.
Yeah.
I wish that I had that growing up, because like I have nieces and nephews now, and they're the younger generation, there's so many opportunities to find people who are like you or make you a better person or better at whatever you're interested in. And you find those people in life, and that makes all the difference in terms of happiness. So as a kid, I loved playing tennis. I loved all these things. I love music, but it was something that I wasn't the same. It wasn't like comedy where comedians, we all know each other. We found our people and we're so excited when we get to hang out with each other. Um, and I didn't find that till later in life. But like for other people, I heard it, Conan O'Brien, who's like a hero to me, he said that about his own kids, where, look, you're into Dungeons and Dragons and you're also into video anime.
Yeah.
There's 20 people exactly like you. And the way of the world now with social media and the internet, like you'll find those people.
Hmm.
They'll make you better. They'll make you happy, not only happier, but like they're like you and you'll find the nuances of the two weird things that you're into. And that's cool. Maybe I'll find a bunch of lawyer comedians. I don't know.
Well, certainly, I mean, I'll definitely say out of default in terms of you're probably the best one that I and a lot of people know just on that sense. Definitely a lot of lessons and things that I think are really valuable from both even coming from this media background and talking to people that work in the arts. I find that it's so parallel. There's so many parallels in different
Yeah,
ways. And you're like not only like humility and like even just perspective on life, I think is certainly valuable for a lot of people. And coming from a guy that, let's just say, also had fun doing first year of law school to a degree, I think it's nice to kind of hear about someone that kind of experienced the same thing and now is in a relatively successful position. So really appreciate you taking the time to chat
of
and
course.
talk about your journey.
Thanks for having me, Mo. It was fun.